Namaste students. Today we are going to see a topic called our environment. What does the very word environment means? The very word environment means the surrounding. It is derived from the French word called environ. Today we are going to see what are the different contexts in which the very word environment is being used. You can see an old man saying that the environment is not what it was earlier. For him, earlier means his younger age, say around 25 years or 40 years back, how it could have been. The atmosphere is very neat, it is not very much polluted, the educational system was different, the values was different. The word environment for this gentleman means all these things. If you take the next picture, you can see the father speaking to his son. He says, you should work in a healthy environment. What does it mean? Healthy environment for the father is the place in which he is going to work. The working environment should be very conducive for the son to work. He should be more comfortable. As far as the payment is concerned, the colleagues, those who are working with him, everything should be congenial for him. That is what the father means. So for the father, the word environment is only the work atmosphere. Now we go to the next slide where we see Global Summit on Environmental Issues. What does it mean? This environment means the surrounding. What is a surrounding for any human being for that matter? The surrounding includes, in the vertical height, it can be the complete atmosphere even to the stratosphere. And vertically down, it can be up to the groundwater, that is the water table, and even below that. And if you take the radius, it can be many kilometers as you imagine. All this is going to form the environment. Now, let us see what are the components of the environment. The components of the environment are biotic factors and abiotic factors. Now, I would like to introduce another terminology called ecosystem. What do you mean by ecosystem? Ecosystem, the very word comes from the Greek word called ekos. Ekos means home. This earth itself is a home for all the living organisms living in this earth. So we are going to learn about this environment, that is the ecosystem. The ecosystem, we can say that it has two factors again, like environment, biotic factors and abiotic factors. What are the biotic factors? They are the living components of the environment. They are plants, animals, microorganisms and human beings. And what are all the abiotic factors? Temperature, rainfall, wind, soil and minerals. In the Indian tradition, we give due respect to both abiotic and biotic factors because our forefathers strongly believed that without abiotic factors, biotic factors cannot cherish in this world. They need both abiotic factors in all their atmosphere. So they come across that the ecosystem is a completely interacting system in which it is both biotic and abiotic factors are going to interrelate. They are going to interact with each other and they are going to survive. Now, let me see how these organisms are going to be divided. As we have seen, there are different types of living organisms. Ecosystem is also of two types. One is the natural, another one is human-made or artificial ecosystem. As you all very well know, the natural ecosystem is nothing but a pond ecosystem, a grassland ecosystem, a forest ecosystem, and so on. If you take the human-made or artificial ecosystem, it includes the parks, the zoo that we have created. All this comes under human-made or artificial ecosystem. Now, let us have a small activity. I am just showing you some pictures and I want you to identify what they are. That is, whether they are natural or human made. Boys, can you tell me A? Yes, you are right. A is artificial, because you know very well that the crop field is man-made. In the natural ecosystem, these producers, these crops are growing in scattered manner. But here they are grown in groups. They are aggregated. So it is man-made. And then here we can see the park. Park is again designed by human being. And so it is again a man-made ecosystem. If you take a natural forest, it is not man-made, it is artificial, isn't it or not? Yes, you are right. In the picture B and D, they are forest and a pond ecosystem. They are all natural ecosystem. So you can applaud yourself for the correct answer. Now, we are going to see a demo of how to set up an aquarium. Setting up of an aquarium requires certain basic things. We are setting up a freshwater aquarium. This can be established in schools, homes, etc. It requires plants, LED bulbs, aerator, pebbles and solutions to maintain the aquarium. That is, they contain certain fungicides and antibacterial substances. And now you can see how they add this gravel and they level the gravel at the base. And later they add water to the aquarium. So like this they set up an aquarium. This aquarium is a type of freshwater aquarium which we can easily set up. There are marine aquarium which you can see in Zoological Survey of India, where the marine water is being taken in and the marine organisms are grown there. And it requires a lot of prerequisites, pre-arrangements and conditioning. And this conditioning process is a bit complicated. So we generally don't have a marine aquarium in home. But that is seen in Zoological Survey of India, like very important places you can see that. Now you have seen how the freshwater aquarium is being set up. You can see how they have added the solution. And now this process is called acclimatizing the fish to the artificial environment, that is the aquarium. And you can see how the aquarium is beautifully established. Yes? And many of you will have a personal experience in your home by establishing a nice aquarium like this. Next, now we are going to see how these biotic factors are going to be classified in an ecosystem. The first level is called as producers. Producers are nothing but the photosynthetic bacteria and the green plants. These plants and the bacteria are going to do one fantastic process called photosynthesis. I tell you, my dear students, there is no lab in this world which can do photosynthesis as an experiment. Yes, photosynthesis is such a highly complicated process taking place only in plants. And in this process, what they do actually, the plants were able to absorb the nutrients and water from the soil. They use the atmospheric sunlight and also carbon dioxide that is available in the atmosphere, and they prepare a complex organic substance called starch, and also we say glucose. All these complex substances are being synthesized by these plants and the photosynthetic bacteria, and so they are called as producers. So what do they produce? Ultimately the food for the world. So producers are considered to be the organisms that produce food. How much amount of solar energy they are going to trap? Only 1%. All the other radiant energy is being wasted. But at the same time, I will tell you, even though there are millions of organisms in the earth, only plants were able to fix that 1% of the solar energy and give food for the world. Now, let us go to the next level of the organisms called consumers. Consumers are classified as herbivores, carnivores, omnivores and parasites. First is a herbivore. What is this herbivore? Herbivore are animals which feed on these producers. These organisms have an adaptation to feed and digest the food. That is, that produces and derive energy from them. It is amazing, children, because in the life processes you have learnt about digestion. You need specific enzymes to digest that. So these herbivores are designed in such a way that they can take these plants, digest and get the energy. What is the need for the energy? Energy is required for them to grow, to reproduce and also to develop. Now we have understood that this energy should not stop with the producers or with the herbivores. It has to go to the next level. What is the next level? That is the carnivores. The carnivores are nothing but the organisms that feed on the herbivores. Next, we have omnivores. What are these omnivores? Omnivores are organisms which were able to feed on the producers as well as the herbivores. So these organisms are called as omnivores. And we have understood that carnivores are going to feed on herbivore. And these organisms generally don't feed on plants. Their alimentary canal and their digestive system is designed in such a way that they can feed on the other organisms like animals, that is herbivores. And omnivores, their digestive system is designed in such a way that they can feed and digest both plants and animals. And next comes the parasites. Parasites, you all know, these are organisms which are going to, yes, you are right, they are going to derive the nutrients from the host without harming the host or causing least harm to the host. They will never make the host die because they will lose the food and ultimately they have to die. So they are selfish, but still they see that the host survives. Now, when we are going to learn about the consumers, the first level I have told you, it is called primary consumers. What are the primary consumers? Just now we are discussing that they are herbivores. They feed only on the plants like rabbit and the deer. Next is a secondary consumer. These consumers feed on these primary consumers. So these are mostly carnivores like lion. Now let us have a small activity. You can just involve with me and tell what this is. Of course, you all know it is a rabbit, but my question is not that. Whether it is a primary consumer or a secondary consumer. Yes, you are right. A rabbit is a primary consumer. And what about this deer? Yes, this is also a primary consumer. What about this? Yes, again, this is also a primary consumer. And the lion, it is a secondary consumer. Yes, so if your answers are right, again, you can applaud yourself. Now let us go to the next level called omnivores. Omnivores, just now we have discussed, these are organisms like bear and human being, those who can consume both plants and animals. They are called omnivores. And now parasites. Parasites, just we have discussed that these are organisms which are going to derive the nutrients from the host directly without harming or least harming the host. And sometimes, of course, they do cause disease also. And these parasites are basically classified into ectoparasite and endoparasites. The parasites that survive on the surface of the other organisms and they are going to derive the nutrients like ticks and mites, they are called as ectoparasites. Here you can see the ticks in the skin of the cattle. And the next is a ascaris. Ascaris is a type of endoparasites where they live in the alimentary canal of the human beings. So they are inside the body of the organism. So we call it as endoparasite. So ecto means outside. The parasite that live on the outer surface of the body of the host is called as ectoparasite. Endo means inside. The parasite that live inside the body of the host is called as endoparasites. So we have seen how we can classify the different types of organisms. Louis Pasteur, you all know, he only introduced a term called pasteurization and he did the process called pasteurization, that is sterilization of Milk, yes. Now, he says a beautiful word in biology, that is, without fungi, death could be incomplete. All of us are going to live in this earth, and one day we are going to perish. After death, what happens to all this living organism, starting from producers to the top consumers? They all are going to get left on the earth's surface without any processing. Then the earth will be covered by dead organism. There won't be space for the newly reproduced organisms or the newly formed young ones. So what should happen? The dead organisms should be processed. What is that called as? Decomposition. That is the breaking of the complex organic substances into simple inorganic substances, and so that slowly they get mineralized and they spread in the soil. This process is very vital process which is done by bacteria and fungi, and these are called as decomposers. So now we have understood that producers are the organisms which are going to synthesize the complex organic substances from the simple inorganic substances, and the energy that is fixed in the producer is going to move to the primary consumer, then subsequently to the secondary consumer, and then to the tertiary consumer. And depending upon their feeding habits, we call them as herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, and parasites. And just for you to know, just as an assignment, you can see these questions and you can answer. I will give you just 5 minutes. After that, we will see the answer. Right, children? Yes. Now you can see this. The first question is, identify the producers from the following. A. Man. B. Photosynthetic bacteria. C. Fungi. D. Rabbit. I hope you know the answer. You can mark the answer. Number 2. Complex organic substances are broken down into simple inorganic substances by option A. Producers. B. Parasites. C. Decomposers. And D. Omnivores. Please don't tell the answers out, just you mark it. Then third question. Which is not an ecosystem by itself? Pond, lake, rainfall, and forest. Yes, you have written the answer? Yes, we will go to the next question. Complex organic compounds are synthesized from simple inorganic substances by. Yes, you can see the difference between the second question and the fourth question. Here the complex organic substances are broken down into simple inorganic substance, and here it is complex organic substances are synthesized from the simple inorganic substance by A. Producers, B. Parasites, C. Decomposers, and D. Omnivores. You can mark the answers. The last question. Dash is a natural ecosystem. Parts A, that is option A, B. Zoo, C. Aquarium, and D. Grassland. I hope you all could have written the answer. Yes? Shall we go and see the answer now? Yes. The answers are here. The first question, the answer is photosynthetic bacteria. For the second question, the answer is decomposers. If they are complex organic substances or broken down means it is decomposers. And complex organic substances are synthesized means it is producers. Which is not an ecosystem by itself? Rainfall. Because after the rainfall, the rainwater gets accumulated and that forms an ecosystem, and rainfall itself is not an ecosystem. Pond ecosystem, river ecosystem, lake ecosystem, all these are the product of rainfall, and not rainfall itself is an ecosystem. Then the last is dash is a natural ecosystem. Now only we have seen in the slides also, parks, zoo, aquarium, all are man-made. It is an artificial ecosystem, and the only natural ecosystem is grassland. Now let us go for the summary. We will recapitulate what we have studied in this module. Ecosystem is classified into natural and man-made. The ecosystem consists of abiotic and biotic factors. Now I know the abiotic factors and the biotic factors, what you have learned will run in your mind. Yes? Yes. Now we'll go to the next. Abiotic factors includes temperature, rainfall, wind, soil and minerals. All these are going to form the abiotic factors. Next, biotic factors, it includes all the living organisms like plants, animals, microorganisms and human beings. And next we have the living organisms, how they are grouped. They are grouped into producers, consumers and decomposers according to the manner in which they obtain their sustenance from the environment. Consumers are classified into herbivores, carnivores, omnivores and parasites. So these are the basic outline for this topic called our environment. Next we will go to the next topic in the next module. Thank you. Namaste students.